Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Welcome to Paranormal Karen. We are, I believe, the end of February. My people know that I tape ahead of time.
Okay, got it.
But I'm so excited today. And everybody, March 6th and 7th, you can see me in Bellingham, Washington. I guess there's only one theater there, so you'll know where I am. And if this is the end of February and it's by February 24th, come see me headline at Brad Garrett's Comedy Club. And I'm already having a hot flash, so I have to take off my... Hang on, folks. It might get a little crinkly. This is how laid back my podcast is.
I'm into it. It is hot in here, though.
It is a little warm.
It's because the heat rises and we're upstairs.
Oh, and I will tell you where I am. I am with the gorgeous Rene Watt at the Crooked Path in Burbank, which is just like become my favorite place now that we've been talking about it in here. And you do tarot readings and astrology here.
Yes, and psychic mediumship comes through sometimes as well. I've got my finger in all of the different sort of divination pots.
You do everything. So, and also, just so we get this out front, what is your podcast where everybody can listen to you?
It's called, I have one called Witch Doctorate. That's just me. That's on hiatus right now, but it will be back. But if you wanted to learn about astrology, that would be a good place to listen. And then currently, I am doing a podcast with Angela Lavelle. And it's called Two Psy Chicks, like psychic chicks, so Psy Chicks.
That's great.
Some people mishear it as side chicks, which I'm not crazy about, so I just have to clarify it.
You got it. So, and Renee and I met through, I came in here once and we ended up knowing Ryan Singer.
Yeah.
And then, and I was in here looking for, Dragon's Blood, which that's how I met Sid, who Sid owns the place.
Sal.
Yeah. And, I have to have him on. And then I just ran into you the other night at, Ryan had a seance in his house.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was between shows, and I'm the only Canadian in Hollywood that's like, between shows, I got to go to a seance.
Right. Yeah.
I'll be back.
That's such a good position though to just have as your lifestyle.
Right. So before we even get into this, tell me your background in how you got to astrology, and you're a witch, right?
I am a witch. Yeah. I mean, if we're going to go way to the origins of it, I was exposed to tarot by my eldest brothers at the time girlfriend when I was 10. And then I saved up my money, saved up my allowance, bought a tarot deck. And then my mom, who was staunchly Catholic, but also, very intuitive herself, took my siblings and I to a developing your psychic ability and intuition class at a community college when I think it was just around that same time. I was about 10. So I started, taking my tarot cards over to sleepovers and then taught my friends how to basically go into the astral realms and channel. This was my sleepover activities. I formed a coven on my 13th birthday.
Oh my God.
So it's just this has always been the thing that has really appealed to me. And just from a very young age, that whisper sort of came into my life and I followed it, and there were times where I wasn't as involved, adolescence. I was punk rock and wanted to be atheist because that was just F everything.
Yeah.
What's the point?
I love that though. What did you do at the sleepover? Well, we had popcorn and then we formed a coven.
We stole my dad's gin and then we formed a coven.
That helps.
Yeah, exactly.
Did any of the mothers freak out or just, it was oh, whatever?
My mom freaked out.
Oh.
My mom was super, the tarot she was fine with because, my grandmother read playing cards. So my grandmother did cartomancy, and my mother had prophecies throughout her entire life, but she was also kind of taught by her peers because she went to Catholic school that it was of the devil and, sort of had it shamed out of her. But once I crossed the line into witchcraft and she saw my books, she was like, what is happening to my daughter?
I read a book on witchcraft once and I had my mom read it. And my mom was great. My mom was brought up Catholic and she raised us Methodist because when she got married, my father said, no one's being raised Catholic in my house. So she went to the priest. Yeah. She went to the priest and she went to the minister. And the minister said to her, well, here's what we're about and here's some pamphlets and I hope you enjoy them and come talk to me if you have any questions. And the Catholic priest said, you know what you're supposed to do and sent her home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
big difference.
Yeah. When I showed her the book on witchcraft, which was very ritualistic, she was like, it's a little like Catholics. Everybody has sort of a ritual thing to it. She related them. So it's kind of weird, you know?
No, I totally think that being raised Catholic and the ritual and the pageantry was one of the reasons why witchcraft was such an easy transition for me to make. But I was already, when I found witchcraft, I was already sort of looking for something else, because I asked one of the teachers in my religious education class why women weren't priests, and she said, because only men can communicate with God. Yeah. Oh. And then I find this book, and it was the first, I read this book, Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner by Scott Cunningham. And it was the first time I'd ever seen the word priestess. And I was like, I can, you know, cause I was in the church plays, I was all about it. And then when I found out that I couldn't have a real place in that religion. Yeah. I was sort of over it, and I was out. And, you know, even if you do want a place in that religion, you don't get to love someone else, you know, even if you're a nun, if you're a priest, you can't have relationships. You can only have an intimate bond with God. And I don't think that's what life's about. And I don't think that's what spirituality should be about either.
I don't either. I mean, if that's your choice, that's great.
Yes, to each their own was going to be my next.
Yeah. You know, it's funny how things like that can really influence you, because I remember, and I never thought about this till years later, because people have things or movie characters, and I'm not that influenced by many things, but I do remember, you're probably way too young for this. I remember seeing the first Star Wars, and Princess Leia, who was so beautiful, like grabbed the gun from them and blew a hole in the side, and she basically said, "Shut up, we're doing it my way." And I remember thinking, oh my God, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen.
It's like, we can do that?
We can speak up.
We have power?
Yes. So I totally get where you're coming from. Okay. So you get a covenant, but that's so interesting how people it's okay to go to this class, but don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I can't really speak to where she was coming from on that. Now she thinks it's great. Now she'll talk about, you know, her prophecies, and she didn't tell me when I was growing up that she had psychic visions and that she was predicting things to the point where it scared my dad. And I didn't find out until this became my profession and my livelihood, where she was like, "Oh yeah, like, by the way, me too." And I was like,
"That's awesome. That's awesome." And I would figure this has to be a past life thing with you.
I feel like it definitely must be. And just sort of, I mean, I definitely feel that I was a witch before, and I was a healer, and I was practicing something. And I believe probably it has been past life.
Wow.
For sure.
Wow. So when did you sort of, did you go to college, or were you kind of right out? You were like, this is what I was going to do. I don't want a real job. I want to do this.
I never wanted a real job.
Right. But I always said I'll only take a job where I don't have to get up early and I can pick out my own clothes.
Yeah, that's a really great baseline to approach things from.
Yeah.
I did go to college. I was a dance major though. And so I didn't graduate because you don't need a degree in dance. That's just not it. And I could have gotten my bachelor's. I was a year away from it, but then at that point I was just so sort of over it and just felt like I was throwing away money. And it actually wasn't until almost 4 years ago when I got divorced. Also, had some issues with sobriety and heroin addiction that I brought myself out of when my life was so broken and I had lost everything that I just went back to witchcraft. And then I had a psychic awakening to where it was like, couldn't be denied, couldn't be stuffed away, and I think it was just like having been sedated for so long. As soon as I woke up, my guides were like, okay, we're going to wake up. Like, we're really going to wake our asses up now. And so the amount of psychic information that I was getting was almost destabilizing. So I had to start meditating and I had to take my study seriously. Wow. And then I never went out there thinking, oh, I'm going to do tarot. I went on a 2-month sort of like comedy tour. And I say comedy in quotations because I was way too young in my like, you know what I mean? Like I'm still
starting out. Yeah.
And I mean, even now, like I couldn't go do that. But
and so people do know you're a stand-up too. And I have to say that even the heroin thing or alcohol and drugs, I think people that are very psychic are very susceptible to that.
Oh yeah. Especially because people who are empathic are healers. So we attract people who are a little bit damaged or have a darker shadow than they've got a light. And they come to us for healing. And as an empath, if you're not aware of that and you don't know how to create psychic defense, you will just start to mirror the people that you're around. And so you're collecting all these people who are toxic, and then you start to mirror their behavior. I mean, I've seen empaths who just get off on being hateful, and they're you know, they've got friends where they're just like, you know, they love to just like get high off hatred.
Wow.
And so I think that that's sort of the empath's curse, that until you sort of recognized how impressionable you are, you just lose control.
And I look at every, I always bring this up almost every time, and we're going to, the jump off back point is going to be when you were getting your psychic breakthrough. But so many empaths listen to this program, and I always try to teach them protection.
Yes.
Do you have any quick help for people? Because right now, especially with the veil getting so thin, I think people are really soaking it up. Do you have any suggestions for protection for them?
I mean, I always tell people to start meditating, because it really opens up your perception to what subtle energies is, and because you're sensitive anyway. And through meditation and through sort of doing that spirit work, you can identify like, oh, someone's actually like pushing weird energy on me right now, and I need to set up a boundary. So identifying it is a really good place to start. And so meditation, visualizing yourself in a ball of white protective light, is going to clean your aura, and it's going to help you. Because I feel like, you know, if you're an empath and you're just talking to someone who's going through a day, whether or not they mean to be a vampire, or they mean to suck your energy, it's just like you could be walking by someone and all of a sudden you pick up someone's crappy aura, and now there's a hole in yours, or there's a dark spot in your aura. And so sort of doing a meditation where you're in this ball of white light, it'll clean that away. And it'll also sort of teach you how your boundaries work.
Wow.
But I also really love to visualize, sort of like, you know, like a nonstick pan, visualizing that metal sort of like over my heart or my stomach, wherever it is that you really pick up emotion from, especially when you're interacting with other people. It's nice to just like, it's almost like you have armor.
You know, in fact, we were sort of talking about this on the way in before I did this sort of hijacking where I just threw the microphone on.
I was like, let's go. I was like, we're talking about witchcraft. I'm completely prepared for this at all times. So
I know. And for people that this will probably be a much later, but I have to go pick up Courage after, because Courage is getting an IV for his kidney, all this stuff. I know, but he's going to be great after. But it's so funny because we're taping this in the beginning of January. Something is going on. I was telling you that I never get sick. And the other night I was unbelievably ill.
Right.
Like, just pardon everyone, but I was throwing up, and I never do. And in the middle of it, I thought, this is like an ayahuasca thing. And I never got sick in ayahuasca, but I immediately was like, this is something else. This is not like just food poisoning.
It's like a visceral reaction to the climate.
Yes. And my tarot teacher had told me, because I've never like felt crystals or anything like that. And just a few months ago, I started really getting reactions. In fact, one gave me a severe headache, and I had to take it off for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
You see, I never had that. And I thought it was that. And then also, I lost my place. I'm sorry. That's how excited I am to talk to you. Weirdly enough, my tarot teacher had told me that once a year she gets violently ill. She says, I don't care how much protection I have up. Once a year, it all gets out of me. And what else is strange is in my meditation, about 2 weeks ago, somebody put 2 German Shepherd spirits next to me.
Oh, so you were already getting some protection being brought your way.
Something is shifting. And it was like, and I see those 2 dogs everywhere. That's how my podcast is. We just talk about stuff like this, and we go, there's no doubting.
That's how mine is too, so it's fine. It's just like, yeah, I talk to aliens. They come to me in my sleep, and they upgrade me. It's like, what's the problem?
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought, something is shifting here in this 2020.
Yes.
That's bigger. So you tell us about your psychic breakthrough. Like, was it just so much information you couldn't keep up?
Oh, it was extremely visually immersive and lucid and emotional dreaming. every night.
And emotional
Every
dreaming,
night.
what does that, what is
Like,
that?
where I was just extremely emotionally involved with the people that I would encounter. And then like, weird animals coming to me in my dreams. I remember one night I had a dream. I had fallen asleep with the window open because it was a full moon. But I had just sort of fallen asleep, like facing the moon, but with my head down. So I was laying on my stomach. And in my dream, I saw the moon rise and I heard it. And it was just timing didn't match up, but it was just like I watched the moon rise very quickly, and it was almost like I heard the sound of a planet moving.
Wow.
And I woke up from the dream and I just looked up, and out my window, the moon was in the exact same spot that it was in my dream. So it was just like a really interesting, like stepping between the two worlds.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah, it was like a perfect mirror. And then I had another dream like that where I was laying in bed and my eyes were open. And at the end of my bed, there was a huge bat, like a man almost, but it was a bat, and it just sort of like ruffled its wings. And I opened my eyes and I was looking in the exact same spot that I was. My body was positioned the exact same way in my dream, but there wasn't a bat there, and I was awake.
Huh.
And so bats, I know now, are like, they're sort of like, they're letting me know when information is coming. They're my messengers.
Interesting. So you were, because bat to me rings of three things. My friend Diet just taught me that's a draconian or a Mothman character, who's my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
But you're just talking like a Batman, right?
Yes. And it very much like, it felt like he was looking at me, like he was letting me know he was there. And
Not scary?
Yeah, not scary. It felt great. And now bats are my favorite animal. Like they're so cute. I've loved them anyway, but after that I was like, okay, my favorite. But I sort of read up on the symbology of bats, and it's sort of like, well, they see with their extra perception, their echolocation. They see through through vibration and through, how things bounce back at them. And it was just such a perfect sort of animal to, offer its partnership with me at that time. And I started writing down all of these dreams because it was just like, why am I dreaming so much? Why am I having such vivid, emotional, interactive dreams? And so I wrote them down every morning for about 3 months. And then I was like, oh, these are all prophecy. And I was like, so I started having deja vu, remembering that I dreamt, this one thing, going back, being able to find the dream, and then realizing that there was a message there.
Wow.
And so that really cracked things open for me. And then I went back to really what I learned when I was a kid, when it was, how to meditate, that psychic development class that I took years and years ago. It just came back. And so I started testing what I could figure out psychically. And then, I at that same time, I went on that tour just because and that tour, I use that term so loosely.
The tour?
The comedy tour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it very much felt like a spiritual, like reclaiming my power, reclaiming my freedom thing. And I had, very few of these gigs were even paying. Truth be told, I was like stripping across the country because that was my job while I figured out how to become whatever it was that I was going to become. I didn't know it was going to be a reader at that point, but I had a gig fall through, and it was my gas money home. I was on the East Coast, and so I was in Louisville, Kentucky, and instead of going to Atlanta, I went down to New Orleans. And the plan was to strip and make money and come home. And then I saw these tarot readers in the French Quarter, and I had always sort of, as a stripper, read for, hey, give me $20, I'll do a 3-card spread. I always had a deck with me. And that's not the greatest place to do it because a lot of
higher haunted, darker energies.
Well, and it's not even that, but it's just guys who would just want to be disrespectful to it, and be like jerks, but still, it's just about, in the club, it's about the hustle. But so instead of going to the strip club, I befriended one of the street poets there, and I started reading tarot on the street. And then I was like, wait a minute, why isn't this just what I'm doing?
Job. Yeah.
So I just built up my Instagram, made connections with other people who were doing it professionally, and started getting clients and more clients. And I remember I moved to LA, and I was still stripping, and I was also, trying to build my client base. And one day I was at the strip club, and just so nonchalantly, I was leaving for the night and I was just shrugged my shoulders and I was like, I don't think I'm going to come back here anymore. And I just didn't. I just made it happen. And I think it was just, it didn't have to be this big line that I crossed. It was time to move on. And that's how, I came to be where I am now, really.
Wow. And I'm going to take a break and we'll be right back. So interesting. From my podcast series, Conversations with April Readings is here. How are you, lady?
Hi, Paranormal Karen.
How would you describe what you do?
I'm a psychic medium, animal communicator. I'm also clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsensory.
And clairfun. Don't ever forget that. You're always fun. I get readings from you all the time. I call you when I'm in a pinch. What can someone who is getting their first time reading expect?
I love to start with what I call your psychic inbox, and that's where we get to see spirit messages, energetic pictures, and any information that's actually important for you to know about today that you might not even ask about. It's what brings you to the reading, and it also creates a context for the rest of your reading.
And then
you get to ask any and all specific or general questions about any area or relationship in your life, and we zoom in on that.
That's my favorite part because you are so specific and one of the most accurate readers I've ever been to.
Thank you.
AprilReadings.com is where anyone can book a reading.
Yes.
And then at April Readings on Instagram.
Yes, definitely follow, like, and share. And my commitment is really that it's fun and that people leave energized and hopefully with a little bit of healing.
And a lot of inspiration.
Thank you, Karen.
You know what's funny is when you were saying that reading for the guys in the strip club, because I do the show Psychic Stand-Up, and sometimes I have comics on, or I did a podcast with my friend Kira Sultanovich, and it was called Karen and Kira Can Read, and we did readings for comic. Yeah, and it was really fun, and we actually, our schedules are so crazy now. We'd love to bring it back, but we can't seem to find the time.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard to keep up a weekly and then keep two of them and have two jobs.
And you've both got your own grind and your hustle. And that is, it's hard. It's really hard. I get it.
Yeah. And we used to just kind of call comics in, and a lot of people were excited, but some of them that are skeptics or are not there by wanting to be there could be such jerks.
Yeah.
I remember this one guy, he wanted to know about what's going on in his career. And I said, well, you're with the wrong agent. You're going to meet this agent. You're going to meet her because you're going to know her because her daughter is the same age as yours. She's going to be blonde. It's going to be through a friend. And then he looks at me and goes, so tarot's not really specific, is it?
What? That's pretty specific. Yeah.
And so it's just like, I know what you're talking about. If you don't have an inviting atmosphere, sometimes it can just be a downer. Mm-hmm. And they won't hear.
Yes. Well, and then, I remember there was this one guy who came in and he fabricated his question, fabricated his background. And I was like, and he was like, so you're not a psychic. And I was like, actually, I'm reading the energy that you're projecting at me. Mm-hmm. So I am doing my job. You are sabotaging your reading.
Right. He's misleading.
Exactly. But it's just when you are, anyone who goes to see a psychic that has this oh, I'm going to get you sort of attitude and purposefully tries to create a facade, and a lot of the pseudoscience bust people or try to bust people, but it's just we're all projecting a certain energy, and if you're disguising yours, we're reading your energy. You know what I mean? And so it's just if you have any concept of how, psychic ability works, or even have read into parapsychology even a little bit, it's about the extrasensory perception of what people project.
Yeah. And also people can block us.
Yeah, totally.
I took a parapsychology class, and my teacher used to say, it's not just extrasensory perception, it's extended sensory perception, which was, I never forgot that. That was one of the most in tune things. So, and here we are now, we're at this great store called the Crooked Path in Burbank.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know about this store until my friend that's a demonologist, he left me some dragon's blood, and I came back and listened to it. And then it was almost weird how I
love that sentence, by the way. My friend who's a demonologist just left me some dragon's blood.
Exactly. You got to take that in context. And then it was kind of I met you, and then I bumped into you at Ryan's, and then and here we are.
I know. I'm so glad we got to do it too.
So I have to ask you though, because this is I didn't know this. We're upstairs now. There's a downstairs. There's two theaters, which I already foresee we're going to be performing in.
Yes.
So is this place haunted?
Okay, so I definitely, especially when we were renovating this place, because we put a lot of elbow grease into making this place what it is.
And how long has it been here?
So we've been in this location a little over a year.
Oh, okay, so a short time.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were for a year prior to that in a smaller location, a couple of blocks down, and so we've expanded. And I remember this one time we were all working late one night, and I saw in the mirror like a cloaked figure walk by, and Popey, one of the other owners here, it's owned by Sal and Popey. They're married, and Popey was telling someone, oh yeah, like Rene saw a hooded figure walk by, blah, blah, blah. And one of the other readers who was in the reading room was eavesdropping and came out and was like, I saw a hooded figure. Huh. And there have been times where I was up here taking a meeting with, one of my other psychic paranormal, my podcast partner, and someone else. And in where we're sitting now, things just started knocking over. When there was no momentum to make that physics happen, no foreseeable cause for anything to be rolling around or falling off shelves. And so we've definitely had activity, but it's not overly aggressive.
And do you feel like it was this building and it sort of came through, or not really an idea where it came from?
I feel like it was probably because there were two psychics hanging out in the room and we were talking about, our podcast project, and it's just like spirit heard us, But then it was funny because Sal came up here. And I was like, oh my God, Sal, we've had so much activity. Like, things have been moving around, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, you have the Enochian tablets just sitting there. Oh. Of course stuff's happening. And I was just like, okay, sorry.
Tell us about the Enochian tablets.
So it's them right there. And Sal would be able to explain that much better than I could. But I know that it's basically like some sort of like alphabet or a way to sort of translate information. He does a lot of ceremonial magic and hermeticism and studied with the Golden Dawn for a very long time. And so I have not experienced, working with the Enochian tablets myself. It's one of the things I tell myself I'm going to learn from him before I leave, before my time is done here.
And I'm going to get him on the show.
Yeah,
I'm going to tackle him.
He is such an impressive magician. He has just such a vast wealth of knowledge that you definitely should. Everyone should talk to him about magic at some point in time.
I foresee a lot of more things happening down here.
Yes, yeah, please. I know. It's just I've always wanted to get some more entertainment stuff happening here, but it's a lot to take on as one person. And I really hope you get some comedy stuff happening here, because I've been just like out of the game for a year.
Oh no, we'll get that going. And that is an easy one to put together, because I already have a little bit of a thing with that. So we're going to absolutely get that going. And it is, it's funny because as much as there's protection in this place, it does look a little scary when you walk in.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too is because we are an occult shop that's not afraid of the dark.
Right.
And so, you'll walk into a lot of New Age stores and they just want to be love and light. And we're not like that. We just think you should be able to do whatever work it is that you need to do. Sal's not afraid to do darker magic or work with darker magic. I'm not afraid of exploring my shadow. I had to explore my shadow to get where I am now. So I think it's just the vibe is a little bit different than what people are used to encountering when they come into New Age shops, because it can be intimidating and it does push people away. So other stores,
Yeah.
But Sal kind of prefers it that way, because we will have those people who come in that are just completely turned off immediately and walk out right away.
Then it's not their place.
And that's what Sal says. He says, I love how if someone doesn't belong here, the store takes care of it.
And that's funny because there's kind of a famous, chain that, one of my friends was like, don't go in there. Like, it presents itself as love and light. And it's not that love and light. So, you know what I mean? You kind of got to appreciate something that is what it is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, Sal will be the first to tell you that we're straight witchcraft here,
Yeah, fascinating. All right, so is that what you talk about on your podcast?
Yeah, I mean, witchcraft, psychic ability, developing psychically, it's sort of just anything that has to do with those realms.
And we were talking about astrology later, which I would love to learn, but astrology is so hard. So you may actually be the first astrologer on for a big time. And I see by your cup, you're Scorpio, right?
I'm a Scorpio, Capricorn rising, Aries moon. So,
and people should know their regular sign and their rising and their moon sign. And it's very interesting because when we say, okay, so my sign is Leo, and then I'm Gemini rising.
Okay, nice.
And my moon, I think I just learned this. I thought it was Pisces. But I'm not sure. But I thought Pisces, Gemini, that's a lot of personalities.
Yeah, that's true, because Pisces is very good at sort of adapting to their surroundings.
Right.
And I would say that like having that Gemini aspect would be really good though as a performer, because it's like you can sort of turn it on and off. You know, you know how some comics, like they can't separate. Yeah. And it's just like, ugh, I mean, that's another reason why I feel like I've taken a big comedy break this last year, not only building my business up, but man, those egos.
And the ones that are trying to impress you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what's funny? I think when you get to a certain point, it goes past. Like you meet Ryan and Ryan couldn't care. I couldn't care.
Yeah.
We're all sort of in it. But I think sometimes at that competitive stage, it's just, you know, and it's funny how people think that they want to be around someone that's on all the time, and they don't understand you don't.
No, you don't. It's exhausting. You're going to drain yourself. But not only that, I mean, not even the egos of people who have earned an ego, because I ran an open mic, and this is what just, I think, destroyed it for me for a while, because I was running an open mic, and I began to realize that every Sunday I was going into this show to be like sexually basically abused, you know, like verbally sexually abused, because like there would be comics who would come into the open mic, have nothing prepared. And then literally I had a comic who would stand on stage almost every weekend and be like, oh yeah, Rene likes to be choked. You know, Rene likes this in bed. And I'm just like, that's not comedy.
That's not funny.
You're not doing a set. You're just making me uncomfortable. And I just got so over it, because I'm like, what makes these people like step into these realms and think that it's okay to just like sort of like be that inappropriate?
Yeah. You know, when I was I started in San Diego many years ago, and we were all about getting new material and driving through and getting to the next level. And that is the only bad thing about LA. And I won't diss on LA comedy, because I am up almost every night I have a show.
Yeah.
And good shows. So it's out there. But there's a lot of open mic people that just like, they just want to be heard, or it's just their ego. And it's like, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
You're going nowhere. So, and I can see that happening, and you're like, whatever. Yeah, it's not cool.
Yeah, and see, I think too, part of it was, you know, I've only been in LA for 2 years, and so that was my in to the comedy scene. That was like sort of like the thing that had opened up for me. Whereas when I was doing comedy in Phoenix, it was way different, because it's way smaller.
Right.
So I was able to find my people really quickly. But I think that, you know, there's bad comedy in every comedy scene, and there's delusion in every comedy scene.
Yeah.
There's just more of it here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know, I do think it splits too. And I kind of think it's interesting, because I think now that you know me and Ryan, you kind of found your people.
That's true.
And wait till you meet April, and this is, it's a really good, it's a thing happening now. And Jessa, everybody here in LA I think I've found my tribe. But you know, it is different too when you go in, like, I have work to do, so I don't, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm an old lady, so I'm not quite in that mix, but I'm always, you know, it is a weird scene. But it is also an interesting thing that the paranormal and comedy is merging.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, you know, somebody always said to me that when something's about to really blow up, it goes to comedy first.
Oh.
Right? And it's interesting, because once again, even today, somebody pitched me to the Travel Channel, and they were like, well, could we match her up with an exorcist? And I was like, yeah, no. Because I have my comedy series, Paranormal Karen, and it's a funny series, but everybody's so terrified of funny paranormal right now.
Right.
So it's got a little bit of a ways to go.
Right.
But, so when people come to you here, and they can probably book on phone, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
But the bulk of my client base is actually, I work from home and I do it over the phone.
Yeah, that's the best. And then you come down here, and what different, you offer everything. Give us a list of all your offerings.
Okay. So I do chakra balancing as well as, you know, reading. So we've got a Reiki room over here, and it's sort of like I will put a crystal on all your chakra points and I'll remove blockages, but I take notes while I do it. So about 30 minutes is energy work, and then the other 30 minutes we go into in the tarot room, and I sort of am like, okay, well, this is what your chakras are doing, so I can see, what your behavioral patterns are based off of that. This is how you sort of like bring yourself down. This is how you bring yourself up. This is how you balance that to make it more cohesive. But I mean, other than that, if I'm doing a reading, I've got numerology, astrology. I like advanced booking because I really do like to take at least 30 minutes with a chart.
Oh, that's got to be the hardest.
Before I charge extra for astrology for that reason because you're getting extra time. But I do like to prepare the chart before I speak with someone. But tarot and psychic stuff, is probably the thing that I'm prepared to just do right off the bat, and numerology as well.
Do you feel like some people separate tarot and psychic, and I don't? Do you?
I do when people.
I mean, how it's done, yes, but to the person, do you feel like it makes a difference to the client?
What do you mean?
Like, if a client would call me for a psychic reading, I feel like it's the same. It's a different process for me, but it should be the same information for them, or maybe not.
I think that it is a little bit different. Like, one of the type of readings that I try to promote is I sort of specialize in seeing other people's psychic abilities. So that would be, when I do those readings, I don't use cards at all because I go in and I will channel, before someone gets here, because I channel them and then I take the notes and I figure out, if they're clairaudient, what that, how that's affecting them. And then sort of like their guides will give me information on how they can strengthen and manage their abilities. Because the thing is, if you're clairaudient, a lot of people get insomnia because they've got too much mental chatter. They hear too much, but they don't realize that it's a psychic perception. My
friend that is an animal communicator, so she has that telepathic thing.
Yes.
She would say sometimes at night, she would hear she couldn't hear one voice, but she could hear like there's a conference room and all kinds of people are talking.
Yeah, it's just chatter. Yeah, exactly. So she must be clairaudient. And then it's also like, signs that you're clairaudient is sort of like you hear the doorbell ring, but no one's there. And then 10 minutes later, the doorbell rings. Or you're singing a song in your head that's sort of obscure and not that popular on the radio. And then all of a sudden you go into a store and it's playing.
I get that a lot. Would you say, but a lot of people can be a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I think that I'm a little bit of everything because I do animal communication as well, but it's not like my main strength. But sometimes I'll have people that I read for, if they've got super intuitive animals, because animals can be psychic as well.
Right.
I had this woman that I read for, and all of a sudden, I didn't even know I could read animals. But all of a sudden, her dog was like, hey, I'm here. And like, I want this toy, and I want this, and blah, blah, blah. And like, this is like what my relationship with her is like. So I just ran with it. And I was like, oh, your dog's here. Dolly's here. This is what she's saying. And then like 3 or 4 weeks later, completely just trying to meditate, trying to go to sleep, trying to do my thing. Dolly pops up and I knew it was my client's dog and she starts showing me pipes. And so I wrote my client and I was like, hey, I don't know if this means anything to you, but Dolly popped up last night and she was showing me pipes. So, if you've got any sort of like water like situation that you've been putting off, like it's time to get dealt with. And she was like, I need to have my well serviced. I've been putting it off for like 3 weeks. It's overdue. And I was like, get that well serviced.
So how do you differentiate between what might be a thought and a psychic, what is a real psychic thing?
Yes. Well, I feel like when it's a psychic thing, it feels like a whole bunch of information at once. And it's sort of like, what we refer to as downloads.
Right.
But also when it comes to my clairaudient abilities, it feels like the voice is happening outside of me. But for a lot of people who don't practice their psychic ability, our guides will use our own voices to give us messages if you're not open to hearing a different voice, because it's like, well, you'll still get the message. You'll just think it's your own idea. So I asked my guides, can you use a voice that isn't mine? I'm listening to you. I'm hearing you. Just don't use my voice because then I can tell.
Oh, I like that.
And so, and I didn't even realize that was sort of like how the collective was dealing with their clairaudient abilities until they told me.
That's so funny.
This is that because clairaudient is one of the trickiest abilities to master because of that reason.
And it can make people feel crazy.
Oh, it can make you feel so crazy. I mean, all of them can make you feel real crazy, you know?
And it's sort of like maps where you can change the voice. That's great. I love that.
Yes. And so just, you know, find that quiet time where you feel like you're connected with them and just say, hey, use a different voice. And for me, now it feels like someone is sort of like standing behind me. And so it's almost like I hear it in my mind, but outside of my own consciousness, if that makes sense. So it sounds like someone's whispering behind me now.
Wow. So you hear it outside of your head?
I hear it in my head, but it's almost like the energy comes from there. You know what I mean? And it almost feels like it's coming into my mind from an outside source.
I have two distinct things that happen, especially when I'm in a reading, and some of it may be mediumship, but I don't really do mediumship. But one of them is my calves, from my calves down, I get the chills just down there.
Oh my God. That happens to me too.
Okay. That's a good. And the other one is one ear almost blocks like it's full of water, and it kind of like it is like, I don't know if that's somebody trying to get in. Does that make any sense?
I mean, weird things happening with your ears definitely is associated with clairaudience, like popping or ringing. I get the ringing all the time. I
used to get that a lot.
Yeah, and sometimes they're like, you need to listen, or like, you need to shut up, or whatever, you know what whatever it is. But it might be, if it's after it's reading, it might be that you need to do a clearing. You know, like you need to sort of like
in the middle.
Oh, really?
And I always thought that meant someone was there. Like that, if I was a medium, I'd be able to hear what it was. But I feel like somebody is there.
You should ask. Should ask. Because you could theorize about it with another psychic, but unless you ask, go directly to the source, pun intended, you know, you won't actually know.
All right. And when we come back, I want to ask you about connecting to other people's chakras and the aliens.
Of course.
All right. We all live busy lives. In fact, when I'm not podcasting, ghost hunting, performing stand-up comedy, or reading tarot for my clients, I'm trying to catch my breath and de-stress. All that on the go can really play havoc with your sleep and impact your health. That's why I'm so crazy about the relaxing benefits of CBD oil. But I care about what I put into my body, so I only look for the best. And that's how I found Zion Medicinals. The company was founded by Brian Caruso, who sought a natural pharmacy-grade solution for his wife's pain and insomnia. Zion Medicinals sources high-quality, healthcare-grade, premium hemp oil direct from an organic farm in Colorado, so you consistently get the best product every single time. The oils are full spectrum too, not CBD isolate, which means that every bottle contains all of the plant's naturally occurring compounds, including cannabinoids, flavonoids, and oils for a superior product. Every bottle is third-party tested to ensure it's pure and potent too. To get your Zen with Zion, check them out online at zionmedicinals.com. Tell them I sent you and use coupon code Karen20 for 20% off your first order. That's capital K, small AREN 20. Tell them Karen sent you. Okay, so we're back. So now you and I were discussing, and hey, how was the seance?
It was good.
Really?
Yeah.
Now he wanted, that's right. I'll have to ask him about seance in his apartment, because seance, Ouija board, not in my place.
Okay. Got it.
But did it have some activity and stuff?
We had some activity. We worked with a spirit box.
Oh yeah.
Which it sort of like goes through the radio stations really fast. And we did this thing that I had read about this before, and I hadn't really gotten a chance to play with it, but you take a flashlight that has sort of like
and you ask it to turn it on and off?
Well, you unscrew it so that it's right in between being on and off, and that it's off, but if you tap it, it flickers. And that gives like an easier way for Source to sort of work with. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we had the flashlight go off at like pretty comical times or like, like pertinent times, or you know what I mean? Like, so there was just like, there was some good stuff. It wasn't the craziest seance I've been to, but it was fun.
I'm kind of glad to hear it wasn't crazy, because I don't know, like in your own home, like that was always the rule: never ghost hunt in your own home, right?
Oh yeah. See,
You might be more used to it and easier to, Because I had a place where I should have never been doing it, and I was doing it all the time. And then my dog got sick.
Oh, yeah. See,
and I saw something out of the left corner of my eye. I was meditating, and I saw something come in. It was a big black glob, and I just saw the corner of my eye, and it had that nose like the guy on, what was the show with the Minions? There was a movie with the
Despicable Me.
Right, and he had the big nose.
Yeah.
And this thing had the nose, and it looked over at me, and I looked at it, and then it like disappeared, like I wasn't supposed to see it.
Oh, yeah, because you saw it. It was like, oh,
right.
Yeah, like.
And then my dog got really sick. And that's how I met the animal communicator.
Yeah.
And she said, do a cleanse. And this was after thousands of dollars at the vet. I cleansed the place. Courage walks out from under the bed like nothing had happened.
Oh.
So it was some sort of a
something.
thing. Mm-hmm. So the seance was good. So now you connect with, because I'm always asking psychics especially, what is their tip for the people that listen and want to get in? And you were talking to me about connecting with other people's chakras.
Yes.
So you close your eyes and picture their chakras?
Yeah. So, I mean, as a rule of thumb, sort of whenever I'm channeling someone, I trained to learn how to get into a deep meditation. And I started with 20 minutes a day when I had my awakening. Now I don't necessarily have to hold that because I've developed.
You can go to that space easily.
Yes, so I can go to that space easily. But to a beginner, you might have to do some deep diving. And then I always ask for a photo of whoever I'm reading for. And I guess it's sort of, I look at the picture and I pretend I'm that person. So I sort of put on their energy, and I wait until I feel like I've got that shift where it's almost like I feel like I understand the core of this person. And then I'll close my eyes and I'll go through each chakra, knowing what they mean. So if I'm looking at someone's root chakra, which is our connection to reality, our sense of security and how present we are. Also, our manifestation capabilities, because you have to implement, if someone's got a completely lit third eye, but their root chakra is crap, I'm like, oh, you're a dreamer. You'll never make anything happen unless you learn how to ground. You know what I mean? I would never say it that harshly.
But you're like, you got to ground.
Yes.
Pull it back in.
Exactly, because that's where manifestation happens. So I'll look, and if I'm seeing, someone's, I remember, I don't know why this always sticks with me, but I remember one time I saw, this woman's root chakra, and it looked almost like a fireball, but it was like fuzzy. And so I was like, you're just blazing through life. You're not like taking any time to enjoy anything. And so I always tell people who have root chakra issues that it's sort of like, you should take a moment to appreciate something that's unconventionally beautiful a day. So the way that the lighting hits some fabric, or just like feeling a nice soft fabric, or actually tuning into some beautiful music. That's not, beautiful music isn't necessarily unconventional, but finding details, and making sure that you're becoming aware of them. Because I was like, it's sort of like, if there's a cup on the table, you're seeing it, but are you really aware that those are two separate things? You know what I mean? And it's sort of like, and I get it too sometimes, where it's almost like I'm not seeing things in HD, Right. And so it's like, I've really got to like bring that sharpness back in, because that affects, if I was going to go up, from there, like, let's give an example, like someone's got a weird, a root chakra where they're not connecting, and then I can see that they've got extreme sorrow or grief in their heart chakra. I'm like, oh, you're just trying to escape. You know what I mean? And so it's like, making peace with your emotions will help you be more present. And it's just, that's sort of the way that looking through each chakra system, I can see how these energy points are creating behavioral patterns.
Okay, so I have to tell you, my friend Jessa always says, Karenrontowski has the best ideas that turn into money. That's a book. That's a book. An easy book. I will show you how to do it. That's a fantastic book for people to understand, because it's a great explanation. Because you can read on this all day, but to really see that and how you explained it was fantastic. In fact, I'll probably have you on to do just that maybe.
Yes, I'd love to.
Yeah. So, okay. So also, talk to me about the aliens. And here's why. Because my friend Jessa, that everybody knows, she had an experience, woke up in the ship, and she's always contacting and talking about downloads. Now, I was told that I am from Orion, and when I read the list, it was unbelievable likenesses. And also when someone asked when the animal communicator, I asked my dog, this was back when I was kind of afraid of the alien thing.
Yeah.
Is, if they were ever here. And he's like, they're there all the time. And so now I kind of welcome it. So tell us, because there are good and bad aliens.
There are. And I think that the fact that I work with the good ones keeps the other ones away. Like
Okay,
they know sort of not to F with me because I'm on team.
You got some mojo.
Yeah, exactly. I've thought about, I've always had sort of a fixation and a fascination with Orion as well, who's actually one of the stars in that constellation Shoulder is getting dimmer, and it has been over the last few months. And I was reading an article about it, and it's sort of like scientists say that they think it might be collapsing and then it will turn into a supernova. So it gets dimmer and then all of a sudden it gets so bright. They said that it would be brighter than our moon if that happens, and it could happen in our lifetime. And so I think that maybe because of that, there is more ET activity happening for people right now. In New Mexico, there was just a couple of days ago a lot of weird sightings in the sky. But from my own personal experience with ET, I realize now that I was having them from a very young age.
And not abductions, but communications?
I'm not sure that I was never abducted, and I'm not quite sure about what the logistics would be behind an abduction, but I think it would have to be a situation where it's almost like they freeze time and remove us or something, because people are abducted all the time, but they're not ever really reported missing from,
right.
Although there are cases of that, but I shared a room with my sister. She, unless they like did some crazy magic to make everyone sleep through the night or whatever it is.
No, I think it's an interdimensional thing.
Yes,
where
exactly.
They're moving at a different speed. Yeah. Or they can move us back and forth.
Yes, exactly. Like it's very quick. Yes. And I think that's actually a really brilliant way to put that.
And that's like how when you go to sleep and you've had a million dreams and you wake up and you've been asleep 5 minutes.
Yes, exactly. But I would I remember I would always have these dreams where it was like my neck was a tube that had been like broken in half and there was like a white fluid coming out of it. Huh? But then like surrounding that, there would be all of these weird like cartoons with their faces stretched out, like not typical dreams that I would have, but all this, like every once in a while I'd have these really weird dreams, and it was always went along with me feeling like my neck was a tube, my throat was a tube. And I never thought about it until I just never thought about it. I just remembered it. And then I got opened up to ET by actually listening to Ryan's podcast, Me and Paranormal You, where he had a contactee on his podcast, and she said that she would always sort of recognize people with strange energies. And then she started to realize that they were ET, and she started communicating with them. And I had worked in strip clubs, and I had been in she said it was always usually when she was out and not in the safest environments. Mm-hmm. And I'd always encountered really weird people when I was working in the strip clubs. And I mean, there was one night where I'd actually dreamt about Ryan, and I was just walking down the street, and I was going to say hi to him, and he pulled off his face like it was a mask, and he was just another person. And then that next day I met that person at the club. And so just weird stuff like that would happen. And then I listened.
Was that person masking themselves as a friend and they weren't?
In the club or in the dream?
The person, you had the dream and then you met the person in the club.
Yeah.
So was that person masking themselves as someone that was a friend and then they weren't? That's why why you thought it was Ryan?
I didn't have enough contact with them. I didn't spend enough time with them to know if they were friend or foe.
Okay.
I had conversation with them, and I sort of talked to them just in the club because I was sort of fascinated by the fact that I'd seen this face in my dream.
Yep.
That he didn't spend a lot of money. So as a stripper, that's not a friend. You're trying to make the friends that spend the money.
Yeah.
But I just was so fascinated by the energy that I didn't feel like he was a threat. I didn't feel like it was bad. And, I didn't really, it was just sort of like a weird thing. And so then I heard this interview, and the next day I was working at a club in Portland, and the entire day I was like, I have dreamt about this place before. I've dreamt this day before. Why am I having so much deja vu? And I was giving this guy who had sort of a weird energy, like sort of like just like when someone walks in a room and you're just like, what's going on with that person?
Right.
You know? And I was giving a dance to a guy and I looked out the window and it was sunset and I was just like, I remember this visual exactly from my dream.
Wow.
So then I telepathically started talking to him. And I asked him, I think you might be an alien. If you are, what did I ask him to do first? I asked him to wink. And right after I said that, he like sort of sly smiled at me and then he winked, which is like, it's a strip club that, you know what I mean? So that wasn't enough, but I was like, that's weird. So then I got called onto the stage and I did my set and I looked at him after my set and I said with my mind, I'm going to go to the ladies' room. If you got that, raise your right hand. And again, he like had this weird look on his face and then he raised his right hand and he just like fist pumped to the music. And I was like, whoa. And so I went into the bathroom and I was like, holy shit, is this happening? Is this happening? Is this happening? And then I came back and I sat with him and I was like, I just need a second. And I went into the dressing room. And so then I said to like the alien collective, I was like, hey, you know, this isn't really what I want to be doing. I'm trying to save up a lot of money right now because I'm starting my own podcast and I need to buy equipment and I just need $100 and then I can go home for the night. And I promised to spread laughter and love through this project. And then I got called on the stage and I did my set and he tipped me $100. And I was like, holy shit. So then I sat with him for a little bit more and I said with my mind, you know, if you want to stay in contact, just say yes. And he looked at me and he went, mm-hmm.
See now, so did you stay in contact with him?
Yeah, I've never directly addressed the fact that he read my mind or we were telepathically communicating. But I bet I'll hear from him just because I talked about him. Because it's whenever I think about him or I talk about him, it's like he knows and he messages me. And the thing is, like, he's never been a creep with me. Like, it's always been really platonic. You have to be careful about who you give your information to.
I'm sure.
But he's just, he's just a very fascinating individual, a very fascinating and unique individual. But even since then, I've had really crazy experiences where, you know, I was driving from LA to Phoenix and I had something that I was sort of avoiding thinking about and I could feel their presence and I can feel their energy just because I'm aware of it now. And it was sort of like they were saying, like, you need to resolve this, you need to resolve this. And it was sort of like a conflict with a person where we weren't on speaking terms anymore. And I was like, I'm not breaking that silence unless you give me, like, a real big sign that I need to be talking to this person.
Don't tell me someone hit your car.
No. I said, it was even more insane. I said, I need to see a light in the sky or a meteor. And I said, and not some shooting star bullshit. So that was it.
No offense to shooting stars.
Yeah, no, but I was like, it needs to be real. It needs to be really loud.
It needs to be not where, did I see that or didn't I?
Yes, exactly. And so I finished my drive. I'm almost done with my drive. I'm like 20 minutes away from when highway becomes freeway and I'm in the city, you know, and I just think about it and I was like, oh, cool. Like, I don't have to talk to this person because I don't really want to do that. And then I thought, unless they're just fucking with me and they're going to do it the last second. And 5 minutes later, a huge meteor came down on my left, so close and so loud. I heard it break the sound barrier.
Wow.
I could see definition in the flame. I could see colors in the flame. I mean, it was orange and blue and I could see the fire. And I pulled off the road and I called that person and left a message immediately. And I was just like, I need you to hear my voice. That something just happened to me and like, I'll email you, like, but we have to work some stuff out, you know?
Wow.
And, I finished driving. I don't know how I got back on the road because all the blood rushed to my face, you know, and I was like, how do I drive right now? You know?
Right.
And I got back to Phoenix and I was just like, am I crazy? Is this when I lose my mind? Like, you know what I mean? Like, am I losing it? And the next day I looked it up on the news and people caught it on their like their Ring cameras and their surveillance cameras.
Wow.
And the news, like I watched the news video and it was like extremely rare meteor has like, meteor, like scientists losing their minds and like blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay.
Yeah, I actually had a rental car get hit by a meteorite once.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, in Oklahoma. And it bounced. And of course it was like everyone else trying to get out of Oklahoma. But it bounced and I saw it go way up in the air and I thought, cause there was no way anyone could have launched it. And it came down and it skidded right from the hood off the top because it was sort of at that trajectory.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't even put it together at the time. And the other comic refused to pay the damage on the rental car, his half. And I was like, a couple inches later, it would have killed him. But I'll never forget it because there was nothing else it could have been. The way it came from so high in the air. And
oh my gosh.
We got it after the first bounce and it just skidded all the way up. And it was just insane. It was just crazy.
Did you pull over and find it?
No, because we were in like one of these traffic things where we were between
you couldn't,
what are those guardrails? Because they were doing so much construction. And it went so far out and it probably killed somebody else. It was so, it was moving so fast.
You do have ET stuff.
I think so. Yes. Maybe they hit me with a meteorite, but you can't really tell a cop that you got hit by a meteorite. It doesn't fly.
No, they're just like, okay.
Yeah. So do you think when there's people like that are kind of half alien, half, like some may know it and some don't. And my friend Jessa says this, and I noticed this. She's like, I can kind of spot somebody that's got a lot of that DNA. Like for a weird example, like I think Keanu Reeves, Palladian.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I definitely do. And I've had the telepathic communication thing happen more than once. One time I had called in my protection that day because I had really bad dreams the night before, and it was like when I'd broken up with someone. So I was like, suit up.
Yeah.
And then I had a run-in with someone in my apartment complex, and it's just like, it really, every time it still takes my breath away that like I can send someone telepathic messages and they'll follow orders. It just,
because they don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, exactly. And I think just that alien energy, like I can tell when someone's just like visiting here, and the second time when I had called in my protection, it was just like a woman who just like was looking at me very lovingly. And I was like, we're in the courtyard of my apartment complex. Like, who are you? I've never seen you before. What's happening? And then I was like, oh, she's an alien. But then I was like, now I just have to circle around because we were talking about the tubes that I dreamt about.
Oh, that's right, in your neck.
Yeah,
Was that spinal fluid?
I don't know. I started going to the UPARS meetings here, and I feel like I get so much out of those meetings.
And tell everybody what those meetings are.
It's the UFO Paranormal Research Society.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they have them once a month. I think it's the third Tuesday. But someone came in and he was talking about how when he is taken at night, they put a tube down his throat and they pump him with a white fluid. And it has a sweet taste. And I was like, oh my God, that's what was happening to me as a kid. And so I do, I do know that sometimes they still visit me at night. They give me upgrades where it's like my energy levels get boosted, basically, and I feel healthier and I feel lighter after that happens.
That's why I think I got sick.
That's why you think you got sick?
Yeah, I think I got an upgrade or something.
Oh, they purged you maybe.
They purged me. This is old energy, and this is old stuff that has to go. Because also, I was well so fast.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I know it's so great to talk to people and to be able to talk like this. Like I always get letters from people that listen, and they're always like, "Thank God somebody said that," or something. Like I feel bad that everybody can't be out. So this was just so great to talk to you, like aliens.
I know, and it's just like, and I just like. I love to be able to have these conversations with people too who aren't looking at me like I'm crazy.
Right, who are
who are like, thank you for this information. Now I feel like it makes more sense to me. Like,
right, I know. In fact, I have to go to one of those meetings with you.
Yes, I would love. Yes, oh my gosh, yes.
And we'll go. All right, everybody. Tell everybody where they can find you, and I'm sure we're going to have you on again.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. I know, this is so much fun. I'm like, let's just always be talking.
And it's so funny because I have I have a great community of like comedians, paranormal, psychics, and we're all going to get to the show down here. I'm going to tell Sam.
I know. Wait. That's my goal. My goal this year is to like brave it and move forward again. I just had such bad experiences in the comedy world.
No, you're in the right group now.
Yeah, and so, but I was like, I just need to chill for a minute. But
so where can everybody find you?
On Instagram, I'm at Rainbow Glitter Star.
Rainbow Glitter Star.
Yeah, Rainbow. My website, rainbowglitterstar.com, I sell spell kits, I sell crystal kits. I put so much love and energy into everything that I make, and I will include a complete write-up and description. So I'm not just like, here's a bottle, put some crap in it, you know, it's a spell. I'm like, no, you're using poppy seeds because it's affiliated with this planet and it'll bring you, you know, prosperity, whatever, you know. So it's an education as much as it's a kit. And then my podcast is Two Side Chicks. You can find it on PSYCHICKS. And you can get that on almost any major podcasting platform. We're on Spotify, iTunes. We also, if you leave us a written 5-star review and send us a screenshot of it, we raffle off a free reading every month.
Oh, that's great. I tried to do that once and it didn't work, but that's a great, I don't remember what I was trying to, free CD, but something like that. But that's great. And where can they book a reading from you?
Find me on Instagram or send me a message at rainbowglitterstar.com. But yeah, Instagram is probably the best way. Rainbow Glitter Star. I'm also on Facebook, Rene Watt.
Right. And we'll have all this in the show notes.
Perfect.
And, Rene, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
It was. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. If you could leave me a 5-star review wherever you are, that'd be great. I hope to see you in the comedy club. Thanks to Mike Flynn at Uno Rising Media. And, everybody have a great week.